If you want to be successful in the market, beyond those complex charts on the screen, there is a very bitter yet equally liberating truth that you must first face and accept with your whole being. The market never defeats you. You always defeat yourself. Mark Douglas's entire career, his years of research, and that unique legacy he left us are entirely shaped around this single, unshakable truth. Success in the trading world is 80% entirely psychology and mind management, and only 20% system and technique. When you first hear this sentence, it might sound very cliché, overly simple to you. You might even be saying to yourself right now, my problem isn't psychology. My problem is that I just can't find that flawless, infallible, correct strategy. Because almost every trader, from that very first day they step into the market, is in an endless and misguided pursuit of a holy grail that doesn't actually exist. We constantly search for a better indicator that will create miracles on the screen, a flawlessly working strategy, a millimeter-perfect entry point that works with zero mistakes. However, the legendary Mark Douglas draws a very hard line right here and says that your real problem in the market isn't your system or the lines on the screen. The problem is entirely how you read the market, how you interpret those lines, and how you think inside your mind. The critical point where Douglas is the most uncompromising, takes the hardest stance, and has written books about in his approach to technical analysis is the fact that technical analysis is never, ever a prediction tool. When most amateur traders look at the screen, they think that when the price reaches that support level they trust so much, it will definitely bounce up from there. That the thick resistance line that hasn't been breached for months will never break, or that the perfect pattern that has formed will absolutely work exactly as written in the books. But Douglas invites us to wake up and states that technical analysis never tells us what will happen in the future, that it has no such power, and that it merely offers a mathematical probability. If technical analysis isn't a magic crystal ball that shows the future, then why do we analyze those charts? According to Douglas, technical analysis consists of the historical repetition of behavioral patterns in the market and only provides us with an advantage, that is, a long-term edge. That massive chaotic structure we call the market is actually nothing more than the sum of momentary decisions made with fear, hope, panic, and greed by millions of individuals trading in front of their screens. Those patterns, candlesticks, supports, and resistances we see on the screen are actually the footprints of this collective human behavior, this mass psychology left on the chart. But there is a very critical distinction here, where traders fall into a fatal mistake that causes them to wipe out their entire capital. Even if these behavioral patterns have produced similar results under similar market conditions in the past, there is no guarantee whatsoever that they will produce the exact same result the next time. This is the biggest feature that separates Mark Douglas from all other experts in this field, his understanding of the random outcome. Every single trade, regardless of what has happened in the past, produces a completely random result independent of everything else. To fully internalize this deep philosophy, you need to look very closely at Douglas's famous casino analogy. Have you ever wondered how a casino consistently makes money year after year, how they build those massive buildings? Casino management never knows what color the next spin at the roulette table will land on, or whether the next pull on the slot machine will give the customer the jackpot. They don't have to win every single game either. Sometimes they even hand out massive payouts. However, because all the rules of the game and mathematical probabilities are designed in the casino's favor, it is a mathematical certainty that the casino will always win at the end of the day. When thousands, tens of thousands of hands are played, they have an unshakable advantage in the long run. This is the one absolute rule that also applies to trading. Let's say you have a system in your hands, knowing every detail by heart, with a 65% win rate. This rate is fantastic. However, this rate means the following. The next trade you enter could result in a perfect profit, or it could result in a harsh stop loss. And you, as the individual in front of the screen, can never, ever know what the outcome of that single trade will be. Douglas states very clearly, if you think you know the outcome of a trade in advance, your mind is just making it up. But when you stay loyal to those rules and catch a series of 20, 50, or 100 trades, that 65% mathematical advantage of your system will kick in and you will leave the table as a winner. A successful trader does not play the outcome, but, just like a casino, plays only the probability. So, since this statistical math in the background is so simple, why do we as traders constantly make the same mistakes and use technical analysis incorrectly? Why do we blow up our accounts one after another? Douglas provides the answer to this question in the dark corridors of human psychology. The problem lies in our human mind. As humans, by our very nature, we are creatures that hate uncertainty. In every moment of our lives, we want to stay in control, be proven right in our predictions, and feel safe. Being wrong inflicts incredible pain on our egos. However, that ruthless organism we call the market has a completely opposite nature. The market exists in infinite uncertainty. It can never be controlled by your desires and is entirely random from moment to moment. It is structureless, its rules are fluid, and it is under no one's monopoly. Since this is the case, our minds fall into that fatal trap, the expectation trap. When a system generates a signal, you look at the screen and say, "This trade will definitely work, this setup is very strong, this is the turning point, this time it will definitely be different," and you project a massive personal expectation onto that soulless trade. According to Douglas, the exact moment your losses, your disasters, and your sleepless nights begin is that moment of expectation. The problem isn't the trade itself you entered. The problem is your expectation for that trade to work out, to give you money, and your attempt to impose this on the market. When the market doesn't move according to your expectation, that massive emotional breakdown instantly begins. Expectation triggers emotion, and emotion then brings along a chain reaction of mistakes. Fear engulfs your entire body. Stress paralyzes your decision-making mechanism. Because you are afraid, you cancel your stop point. When you see a little profit, you exit early without waiting for the trade to reach its target, or you miss a perfect opportunity simply because you hesitated. The thought of the market should do this is the greatest illusion that destroys trading. The right approach is to elevate your mind to that neutral maturity where it can say, "Whatever the market does, I am ready for it and I accept it." The market expects absolutely nothing from you. All the responsibility on the table lies entirely in your mind. At this point, we have to dig down to the real source of that destructive fear traders experience every day. As Douglas frequently emphasized in his seminars, when most people in the market are afraid, they assume the sole reason for this fear is losing money. However, the reality is not that shallow. The deepest, darkest reason for fear is those intense pains you experienced in the past. It is the fear of being wrong, ego damage, the trauma created by taking back-to-back stops, the crushing regret of missing out on a massive trend and just staring as it goes. These mental wounds you received in the past create such a filter in you that even when the market offers you a completely objective, pristine opportunity, you pass those new candles through the painful filter of the past and misinterpret them. Information itself alone never causes pain. A green or red candle has no emotion. What gives you pain is the meaning you attach to that information with your own past fears. And that is exactly why there is only one way to overcome that unbearable fear and achieve true discipline: to accept the risk, right down to your cells, with all its nakedness and its worst-case scenario, seconds before you even enter that trade. If you haven't sincerely accepted the amount of risk you could lose, you start to suffer and writhe in agony the moment the trade turns against you. Most people think discipline is forcing oneself to follow a rule, grinding their teeth staring at the screen, and suffering. Yet, in Douglas's philosophy, discipline is being able to execute a decision fearlessly, pressing that button with robotic calmness, without experiencing any internal conflict or hesitation. There is no delay, no excuse, or what if. Now, let's tie all these deep mental teachings directly to the specific tools you use on your screen every day and to your own custom system when you sit down at the table as a master trader. You are not an ordinary analyst. When performing your analysis, you use highly advanced indicator structures like VPMV. You build a cascade logic looking for how multiple timeframes align with each other, meaning that critical MTF align. And sometimes, to catch those aggressive price reversals, you hunt for clear spike logic on the chart. All these complicated structures, the millimeter-precise crossovers VPMV gives you, the daily and hourly charts confirming each other. All of this is magnificent, and they are exactly what Douglas refers to as the edge, your sharp advantage in the market itself. This is the sword you wield in battle. But when you sit at the table with Douglas's uncompromising perspective, the exact place you might fall into the biggest mistake, where you could throw away months of effort spent building your system in mere seconds, is precisely the moment that perfect signal arrives. When all conditions line up on the screen simultaneously, when the cascade structure settles, when the MTF aligns perfectly, and when VPMV gives that clear buy confirmation, if you say to yourself, "This setup will definitely work, this 6x potential cannot be missed, this spike structure will clearly reverse from here," that exact second is the second your mind betrays you. It is the beginning of the end. According to Mark Douglas, this certainty thought is where disaster and error sprout, because in that moment you are demanding an outcome from the market. You are dictating a direction to it. Using a system correctly, like a true professional, requires the exact opposite mindset. When you see that perfect VPMV signal on the screen, the only sentence that should pass through your mind is this: this setup only offers me a probability with a high likelihood of winning. That's it. Just like that emotionless croupier, you must take every signal flawlessly, sincerely accept the outcome before you even press the button, and focus not on the result of a single trade, but on the inevitable victory of that strategy over a series of 50 or 100 trades. Technical analysis is, of course, necessary. It is your sole roadmap, but it is never enough to survive and win in the market. This radical shift in mindset is the most painful yet most mandatory process a trader can experience in their life. By nature, we do not like surrendering or letting the outcome flow. Even Mark Douglas himself learned this truth by paying a very heavy price in his youth. In that famous incident where he traded in the silver market, when he was in a massive position and losses started to mount, he succumbed to that savage fear and panic inside him, rapidly closing his position and fleeing the table. However, just 30 minutes after this decision, the market embarked on a massive rally in the exact direction he had initially analyzed. Douglas experienced his great epiphany when he realized he had missed the biggest trade of his life, the opportunity to make a fortune, solely and purely because of his own fear. The sentence he told himself that day, "The problem wasn't the market, the only problem there was me," is actually the ultimate truth that everyone stepping into this profession must one day look in the mirror and tell themselves. Being a truly successful trader isn't just about memorizing indicators, it's about ruthlessly reprogramming your own mind. A successful trader has infinite trust in their system, but undeniably accepts the risk they will take at the beginning of every trade. They never care about what the outcome of a trade will be, know they cannot control the outcome, and only focus on the process of making the right decision. The previous trade is history to you. Whether it closed with a massive profit or hit stop loss at the worst possible point, it has zero impact on the probability of the next trade. If you want to win sustainably in the market, you must stop attaching excessive value to every single trade as if it were the meaning of your life. Cast aside your ego's need to be right, and not let your fears dictate your decisions. Once you engrave thinking and probabilities into your mind, once you accept that the outcome of every trade is just a grain of sand within the market's massive randomness, and once you stay bound to your own rules with unshakable loyalty, that is when you will see that you have truly begun to win. Never forget, the market does not try to trick you. The market does not play games with you, and the market never lies to you. The market is just like a giant reflective mirror. When you look at the screen, you only see your own mind, your own fears, your expectations, and your level of discipline. As Mark Douglas said in the most striking, most impactful sentence of that great teaching he dedicated his entire life to, the winning trader who leaves the table with profit is not always the person who makes the right analysis in the market. The winning trader is always the person who thinks right.
Thank you for watching our video. In the next episode, we will examine the journey of another legendary trader. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. For more content and strategies, you can join our Telegram channel. The link is in the description.